everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here, I know, finally, with day one of my 2020 Christmas series. You guys know, if you've seen my previous 2 years, I cannot start this series until 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving. So I do hope everyone that celebrates Thanksgiving, that you had a wonderful and safe holiday with your family. And I stress safe. You can see here, this is the stamp that I'm featuring, and it is by Stampers Anonymous. Now remember, my videos are going to be long because I am going to show you all the steps. Very little editing is going to happen in these videos. They are going to be sped up, and yes, there will be lots of gabbing. So I do hope you enjoy this. So let's get started. So I'm grabbing my craft mat, and this is actually by Nuvo, or Tonic Studios, however you want to call that there. And again, all the products, if they're still available, will be listed down below in the video description. Now, I'm taping this down because it coils up on the side and, well, okay, it drives me crazy. What can I say? It just makes me nuts. So once I have that taped down, I'm going to grab my stamp positioning tool, and I have 2 pieces of Bristol Smooth cardstock. Now, this is actually the Bristol Vellum, which is like the Smooth. I don't see a difference, so I'm good with it. And it's by, as I said, Strathmore. I do like that brand when it comes to the Bristol paper. I'm using that because I'm about to use a lot of water with the technique. I'm going to be doing the ink smushing technique. I'm stamping the poinsettia twice, once of course on each of the Bristol papers, and I'm using my archival ink potting soil. I want to have a brown base, and basically the reason why I am stamping this is because when I do my ink smushing, and we'll get to that. I'm then coming in with the music stamp, and I'm just stamping all over the place. Yes, I am making this look absolutely horrible, and you're all probably saying, what are she doing? What I'm doing here when it comes to the card is creating a mixed media feel. Some of us enjoy the mixed media look. Some people don't think you can't put that on a card. I am here to say you can do anything to a card that you want. It is your card. It is your piece of art. And that's what we're doing. The colors that I'm using when it comes to my distress inks are abandoned coral and aged mahogany. So you can see I'm taking this one panel, the one poinsettia, and I'm doing 2 layers of the abandoned coral. I love ink smushing. I could do it all day. I think it's awesome. It's relaxing. It creates great panels, and no 2 are ever alike. But to get the effects, I find dry in between each layer. If you do that and don't work it too much, like I'm sopping up the rest of that ink, because I know people cringe if I don't. It's okay. It's all good. You know, video. I've got minimum time here. Got to keep you going. Now I'm coming in with the aged mahogany, and that's just going to give it a little bit more depth. I'm not looking for shading. I'm looking to have these different colors. I love the way the distress inks dry. Now, the beauty of the distress inks are they are great for watercoloring. If you're looking for a very versatile stamp pad that you can do many techniques, your distress inks are that. Now, they're not good for stamping. Okay, they don't give you that solid impression. But you can do backgrounds with them. You can see you can do ink smushing with them. You can do watercoloring with them. You can stamp watercolor with them. You have no idea what I just said with that, but you can. For the next poinsettia, I'm coming in with peeled paint and crushed olive. So the first color, and it looks really bright, wow. On my screen there, this is the crushed olive. So I wanted that to be the base. Now I'm going to come in with the peeled paint. So when I was looking at the crushed olive, it was really light. I needed it to get just a little bit darker. So I am adding a lot of the peeled paint to it. Now I will, when I'm doing my ink smushing, I will always use a silicone mat, such as the craft mats, whether it's the Ranger, whether it's the ones you get off Amazon, the baking sheets, which are great price point, you get a bunch, or this Nuvo that I'm using. I won't use a piece of glass. If I'm doing ink smushing and I'm using a glass where I'm putting my ink and water, it's going to give me more of a watercolor look. I like the splotchy look, the ink splattered look, the messy look, the chaotic look. And I get that with a silicone mat. These are my 2 panels. Again, they look like a hot mess. Why would I waste my time stamping? I didn't remove my stamp from my stamp positioning tool. So what I'm going to do now is it's going to be in the same exact spot that I stamped before because I didn't move it. I remembered not to move it. I'm going to come in with my Simon Says Stamp clear ink, and I'm going to stamp it a couple times. It's Bristol paper, so it does have a little bit of a texture, and I want to make sure that I've got this image stamped down. I am going to heat emboss this image, and I'm going to use my Altenew Vintage Gold Embossing Powder. I love the color of this. And as you can see, I have a theme, vintage. You know, I'm moving right through that when it comes to the card. For those of you that have seen my videos before, it's kind of I gravitate to the vintage look. I just enjoy that. You know, we all have something that we go to. So I am heat setting this, and the Vintage Gold by Altenew is a deep gold. So it's not a brown, but it's close to like a light brown with a metallic feel to it. So you can see that there in the upper left-hand corner there. It's got a beautiful shimmer to it. Now, what I'm going to do with both of these is fussy cut them. I want to cut around. Now, I'm not cutting up to the embossed line. You can. I am not a fan of the fussy cutting. I mess it up. It's never even. And I felt if I took it right up to the embossing line, I would have just cut right into it. And I didn't want to lose that line. So you all are knowing, for those of you that know me, I will be coming in with vintage photo around the edge of this. Of course, it's going to be in here. So I'm not really too worried about how even this is. Again, I'm okay if it's uneven. I'm okay if it gets a little bit torn up. Again, I do want that aged look to these pieces. Now remember, I've stamped the same image, and one's green and one's in a red tone. A poinsettia, the leaves start out green and then they turn into the colors. So a lot of people think that's the flower. It actually, the leaves turn into the flower. I forget what that process is called, but it's actually, you're always looking at leaves, they just turn, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. I am a huge fan of poinsettias, but I do have a little one, a cat, who gets into everything. I mean, he is just precious. And of course, these are very poisonous, so I can't have them in my house. Very upsetting. But I live with poinsettias through my cards. There's always a way. So you can see once I got done cutting them, I am going around with the vintage photo, again, just to darken those edges. I am enjoying the way that this came out. I'm going to layer these two by simply turning that image. You're actually stretching your stamp set. You're also creating dimension and you're creating layers just from one stamp. This is my prized possession. Yes, I have finally received the deckled edge trimmer, and I am absolutely in love. So I am sorry that my camera is shaking, but I needed you all to enjoy that moment. I have gotten so many questions, emails, and through my group messages. Did you get this? Did you get this? Yes, I did. It'll be wonderful when I do my journals. It's absolutely fantastic. So I took a little bit back to the card. I'm sorry. I told you I have Gab. So I used some of the vintage photo and a large brush, and I just streaked down this piece of, again, Bristol cardstock. Again, it's a lot of water, and by using the Bristol, it takes the water, and yes, I am heat setting it. It will warp, but it's very easy to get right back into shape, to get flat. I'm grabbing this beautiful script stamp that's part of the set. Again, grabbing my archival ink in potting soil, and I'm just stamping all around the background. Doing first generation, second generation, just adding a little bit more texture, not only with the streaks that I put, but adding it with the stamping. I'm going to come in now with some ground espresso and some black soot. Splatters galore. I love my splatters. I love splattering. You can never have enough. I'm actually very surprised that I remembered to do this first. Usually I forget to do this first before I put all my pieces on. And then I got to sit there and cover up the focal image. And if I did, I wouldn't mind. You know, just grab a piece of paper, put it on top of there, and just splatter away. I will heat set these, and they mix, they'll merge. So you get these different variations when it comes to that. Again, it's another layer of a texture that's going on that just brings that piece of paper to life. It's like when we use our oxide inks or our distress inks or any type of water reactive ink, and we create a blended background and we add our water droplets to it. That adds texture as well. So there's so many ways. I'm then going to prop these pieces together. And I'm going to do that by using my double-sided foam squares. I'm going to come in with my, wow, I totally went blank with what that is. Paper creaser. My scoring tool. Wow. I really did enjoy all of these, I promise. And I'm curling the edge of each of those leaves. I want them to curl down. The red, the red part, they're going to curl the other way. Again, it's another way, not only using your foam squares, but just by curling your paper with a smooth edge, you're creating that dimension. You're creating those curves. You're creating that rounded look. Once I know where that's going to be placed, excuse me, I'm going to look at, okay, I want something around my edge. So I grabbed the ground espresso. Now, your eyes are not deceiving you. I noticed this as well. When it came to the ground espresso, I don't know if I picked up the wrong sponge, which I am sure happened. But it's got a green tint to it. I was okay with that. Again, because my leaves are green. And again, even if it wasn't, we would just go over with more. But to tone back, I am coming in with the vintage photo around that edge as well. And then eventually I will come in with even a darker color to make that edge even darker. I'm playing with my placement. So I want to use the beautiful font that says Christmas Greetings and the scroll that comes with it as well. I don't want to lose the placement of those, so I am going to pull back in my stamp positioner. You can certainly use an acrylic block. And I'm going to use my clear ink again and the emboss, the vintage gold embossing to get that there. Once I have that heat set, one of the things that I saw was, again, I have this embossing going on. Now, it's extremely visible. I mean, you can definitely see it. Again, the camera does, when you're taping the video, it kind of distorts. But you can definitely see it. But it was missing something. Even though I have this, huge focal image down on the bottom right. And I have, the scroll, and those two things, the sentiment and the scroll, are actually, again, my opinions here, it's framing that poinsettia. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, basically I'm cleaning and I'm looking at that. So what I want you to see here, again, people love the art journaling techniques or mixed media. That doesn't mean that you cannot put it on your card. You may be very comfortable with the 5x7 signs, and they make beautiful cards. I mean, why not? Knowing that I had those two images there, and if any of you have seen my art journal pages that I've done, I'm taking the same steps. And you can see that I am very much inspired by Vicky. And I say it every time. I cannot pronounce her last name, and I just will not chop it up. I just love her techniques on art journaling. So you can see that here when it comes to the layering and then adding all of your different steps. I did take one of the stamps, and it was just, it says registered letter parcel, and I put that around the edge of those edges. It helped to frame it and almost end that piece of paper. Even though I had the ink going around, I really do think that it helped to actually end the page and to say, this is it. I grabbed a piece of fun foam, and I'm using my, it's a 2-inch film tape that I get from Uline. This is awesomely strong. It is extremely unforgiving, though. The moment you touch paper, it's stuck. It will not move. This is not something that you can pull back out to reposition. So once it's down, she's down. But it is my favorite. I like to use this especially when I've used a lot of water or I've watercolored and that page has warped. It straightens it out and it helps to adhere it onto that. The card base that I'm using actually is from Tonic Studios. They usually have a great sale every once in a while. They're bundles on the weekend. And that's when I usually get their card bases. And they've got great sizes. They've got 5x7, 6x6, and then the regular standard A2 size. So I like those odd sizes when it comes to card bases. And they are a great weight. They're nice and thick. You can see I was going through my Nuvo drops. And I am a fan of the satin drops, which I'm using. And this one is chocolate chip. I've put a few down into the center. I didn't want to add gold because I thought I had a little bit too much gold, or I had enough gold. I like the amount that I have there. I'm grabbing my Martin's No Bleed white watercolor. It is a true statement that this is a no bleed. So since I've used distressed inks, and you can see more splatters coming in, going all over the place, loving it. I wanted it on my focal point. I wanted it everywhere. But I will say, distress inks, whether oxides or the regular inks, will react with something that's got water in it. This has got water in it, but it does not. It stays no bleed. It does not turn the color of the ink. So I do hope that you enjoyed our project for day one in my 2020 Christmas series. Of course, I started out with the vintage. I promise you everything will not be vintage. All right, so stay tuned for day two. We will be going for 25 projects, and you never know what you're going to say. It's not just cards. It could be an art journal page. It could be garland. It could be anything we can do with paper. So if you've seen my previous, welcome back. I hope you like this one as much as you did the other ones. And if you're here for the first time, please, I do hope you enjoy. Subscribe if you would like. All the products that I used will be listed down below as long as they're still available. Please leave your questions down below as well, and I'll make sure I get back to you as soon as I can. Everyone, enjoy your day. And again, I do hope you enjoyed your holiday if you do celebrate Thanksgiving. And if you didn't, I still hope you enjoyed your day. Continue to stay safe and healthy. Enjoy. But remember what's most important to me, everyone. Always be creative. Till day 2.